Hey, everybody. Welcome to RelationShifts. We are so glad you're here. I'm Larry Little.
And I'm Melissa Jackson.
And you are listening to RelationShifts. Thank you for being here, for being with us in this fall. Man, this is my favorite time of the year, Melissa. I love fall. Do you?
You know, I do. I wouldn't say it's my favorite time.
Really?
It's Robin's favorite time, too.
Okay.
We know that about our Robin. She loves some fall.
What is your favorite time?
Spring. Spring is my favorite
spring is
time.
Okay, yeah.
But fall, you know, by the time here in the South, by the time that you get to the end of summer, you know, August, it's been so hot, and I'm ready for fall.
I'm always
ready for it.
I love the flower, the foliage, the turning. I love, you know, I'm a beach guy. I love my favorite time at the beach is the fall because the weather's just warm enough to be out,
That's a good time.
cool enough.
It's a very good time.
And then of course there is football and basketball right here on us, and I love that too. So I don't know. I'm a fall guy.
Yeah. Did you watch some football last weekend?
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Every weekend I've got my got a little man cave like I like it, and I get out there and watch my football, my basketball, and which is just right around the corner because I'm truly a basketball guy. But anyway, I digress.
Well, we won't even get into the games last weekend, so we'll just move on past that. So we're talking about what today?
Well, this is something that I think the topic today, Melissa, let me just set this context for us, right? We've been together a long time. We've worked together years, like a lot of them, like maybe 30. So we've been 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And through this topic we're going to talk about today, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you could have experienced with me. It could have happened. I don't know, and I'm talking about frustration.
Larry, that has never happened. I mean, to this day.
30 plus years, and you've never been frustrated with. I can't imagine.
Goodness. You know, it is a different season, and I don't get as frustrated with you as early days, but it's a different season.
You've just either learned to tolerate or give up, or
getting older does something to you.
It does. But we're going to talk about it because I think it's a real issue. We all experience it. We're going to talk about what can you do about it. Or, is there anything I can do about being frustrated? And I think there is. But before we do that, let's jump into our question.
Let's do that for sure, because these questions are always so helpful and so realistic, which is this one today as well. So here it is, guys. I get frustrated so quickly with my family over small things like the dishes or keeping the house clean. Oh, goodness, yes. I can't relax unless it's all done, and they don't understand that. I get you. I'm feeling it. I'm just feeling it. How can I talk to them about how much they can help without it seeming like I am asking them to do chores? So how do you get them to pitch in? How do you get them to be a part of the team and participate and help? This was my weekend. Can I just talk about this for just a moment? So I got in one of these modes because it was a long weekend and we were at home.
Right.
And so it was time to clean the house from top to bottom. And I'm talking about the attic. I'm talking about closets. I'm talking about everything. You were
spring cleaning in the fall.
It was on. And I had it. I had extra time, and
here we go.
I wanted everybody to do this with me because you need everybody, right? But I would get something going, and I would be making progress, which is so nice to see progress. Like you do it, and immediately it's getting clean, and you're seeing this happen. And then I, go into the other room or go downstairs, and here I clean this up, but then I go here, and here is a mess, but there wasn't one there when I was there just a little while ago. And I'm feeling like as soon as I get this one clean, this one is not. As soon as I get this one organized, this one's not.
Right.
It's a real thing.
It's
Larry.
a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's my thought on this to our question asker, and maybe to you. I don't know.
I asked this question. I just put that out there. I'm just kidding. I didn't.
You sent it in anonymously.
I didn't, but I feel it.
You feel it. Here's the thing. First and foremost, I think we have to look at our expectations, and we have to ask ourselves, look, is what we're expecting, is that is that rational? Is that, because we're going to set ourselves up for defeat if we don't set realistic expectations. Then I think the second thing is, when you communicate to your family members, hey, I can't really relax till everything's done. Don't do it in the moment. Set those expectations up beforehand. Hey guys, this is where we're headed. This is what you can expect. We're going to do this tomorrow or moving forward. This is how. And then in order to help them to remember, because they're not, these are your expectations. These are not your families. These are yours. These are not your teenagers. They don't care. They want to go to the next text and, whatever. So I'm going to give you a word. And when I give you that word, it means my frustration level may be rising. It's going to mean, hey, there are things that you didn't do, that this was your chore, that I need you to go look. Instead of me hounding you, I'm going to say, I'm going to use a word, whatever that word is. Teamwork. I'm going to use a word, whatever that word might be. And pick something that you can say that will trigger them to know what your expectations are. You don't have to change your expectations, but instead of hounding them about it, pick a trigger word and let them. And then the last I'll say is, when those things don't happen like you want them to, take a step back and have some accountability around it at the appropriate time. There needs to be accountability,
that
but
is so good.
Generally not in the moment.
And that sounds so good. And I did none of those.
I hear that sarcasm.
But I didn't prepare ahead of time. It just, something started and it just started rolling. And then the opportunity just presented itself to clean.
It's called life.
Get organized. But what I did do, and I appreciate my family so much, and they, we know each other, we know each other's personalities. And so I was able to say, hey guys, let me tell you what I'm doing. Because I didn't prepare ahead of time.
Perfect.
I didn't plan to clean and organize things, but it happened, and I'm glad it did, and we all felt better afterwards. But I was able to stop and just say, hey guys, I am in an organizing mode, and here it is, and we're all going to benefit from it because we are, and I really need your help.
There you go. You communicated your expectation beautifully.
Hey, when you finish watching that show, can you jump in?
Yeah.
Can you do it? And they were so kind to do it. They were very, very kind.
That's
and we made a lot happen in a little bit of time. Cleaning, it happened.
It happens. And I think that as we think about frustration, the thing is, it generally doesn't happen all at once, where you just have this, all of a sudden I'm incredibly frustrated. Most of the time, it happens when expectations aren't met over and over again. It's not like a one-time thing. It's when stress is chronic. You're in a stressful situation, a stressful environment, and it continues and it kind of builds up. It's when you have needs that you think you have that continually aren't met. So you see that pattern over and over again. My needs aren't met. My needs aren't met. My expectations aren't met. My stress level's building. My stress level's building. So then things that you could handle, and I know with me, when those things happen and that stress level rises, things that I could navigate generally, I really struggle navigating because that stress level is already so high. So I let my frustrations, kind of slip in, and I react in a way that I don't really want to react because I'm reacting because of those. So what can we do about that? Well, first of all, let's make sure that we understand this is a real deal. You said it's a real thing, and it is a real thing, and we have data to prove it. This is interesting. I think this stat's low that I'm about to give you. I think it's low. 80%. That's the number we have. I think, and that's from the American Psychological Association, I think it's low, but the stat is 80% of people report feeling daily frustration in their relationships at home or at work. I think that number rises. What do you think? I think it's higher.
Yeah. And I think, frustration, emotions are so different at this point in 2025. Years ago, people would stuff emotions more, and that still happens now, but emotions are so out there at this point. You have all kind of different emotions that you experience, even out in public. You see people get frustrated out in public. You see people react. there's an emoji for everything. There's an emoji for every emotion out there. And so, nowadays, emotions are just so relevant, prevalent. They're so real. And so I think that, when we think about what can we do with frustration, we can talk about how to, even in the moment, what are some things that we can do. But there's a continuum of frustration, emotion even, right?
Yeah, but I had a question for you because we were talking before this. You and I were preparing. Mm-hmm. You have a theory about this. Used to secondary emotions, we'd say, you're hiding something, and you're saying no. Really, emotions are kind of out there right now, but you have a thought process around why that is. That started back in 2020. Talk about that.
Yeah, we all experienced COVID together and went through a pendulum swing in society, and so much changed. And so, where we are today is very different than we were in 2012. So today, nowadays, emotions are just more prevalent in people. You see their emotions. Mm-hmm. You experience their emotions.
It's interesting.
You hear it in their voice. People are just more emotionally driven, I think, nowadays. Yeah, and so, it's backed up with social media. You see this. There's so many outlets for people to express emotion, and they use them, and they do that. And so emotion is just a different thing. Emotion nowadays versus 10, 20 years ago.
Just to underscore what you're saying, I was scrolling yesterday, and I saw this thing, and I don't know, it was on X or something, but I was looking at whatever I was looking at on X, all of a sudden this video came on the next scroll, and it's this road rage incident. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was just ridiculous. It wasn't like it was a big, it shouldn't have been escalated to the level it was escalated, but it was a woman. Mm-hmm. Frustrated and making this other person wreck and get in front of them and slam on brakes and all this and I thought, my gosh, growing up, or even I've never experienced that kind of emotion from someone else, but I think it's becoming more and more and more prevalent, and road rage is an example of that. What you were just describing, I think we see much. Well, I'd love to see a stat on the increase in road rage since 2020. I bet that would be interesting.
We're so reactive. So reactive, which is our focus for today. What do we do with frustration? There is healthy frustration. There's a healthy level of frustration, and it is just an emotion. But when it piles up, when you've got too much frustration, when that emotion becomes where you are reacting, and not are you just reacting, you're overreacting to the situation, then, that's when we need to be able to step back and do something different. And so we want to talk about, what do you do? What do you do with that? How can you be aware of where your frustration is, at what level, and what's triggering it, and what do you do about it? There's
some good news too, by the way. There's good news.
Tell us some good news.
Studies have shown that when we learn to recognize triggers, that we have lower conflict levels, conflict goes down, our relationships get better when we recognize the triggers for frustration, and instead of allowing that frustration to drive our behavior, we take control of those triggers and use those triggers to modify, to deal with, to control our frustration. So let's kind of talk about that. Let's jump into that from, what are we talking about here? What does that mean? I mean, that's kind of a, psychology-y, metaphor, but what does it mean to trigger? What are you even talking about? Talking about recognizing what's really going on inside of you instead of the way that you're feeling. Because sometimes what you're feeling is not really what's going on inside of you.
Right. And I want to take it out of the psychological realm and let's put it just in a relationship realm, and understanding relationships and each other and thinking about those relationships that are important to you, and what happens when a button, if we want to call it a trigger, it's a button that gets pushed. What is going on inside of you? For us to be aware that our button has been pushed is a first great place to start. What's going on? My button has been pushed. Well, what pushes my buttons, first of all? Each of us, we're very different individuals, and we're all going to have different buttons that get pushed. And it takes time to figure that out. It takes time and creating some awareness of what are my buttons. And so, that's a good thing for us to learn, right? What are they? What's a button you have? I'm curious.
I'm not the most patient person in the world, so I'm kind of action oriented. So when I see things spinning, or when when for instance, if this is a tell on me. If I go to a restaurant, right, and it's going to be longer than a 10-minute wait, I'm out. I'm not going to sit around. Food is not worth hours of wait.
Even if it's a really good restaurant.
I'll go back another time. I'll make an appointment or something, a reservation. I don't tolerate. My wife is like, you are so impatient because, if we're at the beach or whatever, I have to really get my mind right, because it's a trigger for me that I'm going to go wait in line because this restaurant doesn't take reservations, and we want to eat, they want to eat there or whatever. And we go, and I really have to gear myself down. I mean, I can do it, but it's a trigger for me. I'm not very patient. So I think, I have to know that's a trigger, right? And I have to go, okay, I'm not going to allow that. And I think what's going on inside of me is I'm so action oriented. I'm wasting time sitting in this line when I could be doing something that I enjoy at the beach, because food is not worth that to me, right? So I've kind of processed all that in my mind ahead of time, but it doesn't mean that my wife doesn't want to wait, or my children don't want to wait, or my friends aren't willing to wait because they really want to eat at this. And it is worth the wait for them, right?
But it sounds like you know what your trigger is.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your wife and your kids know what your trigger is.
They do.
And so, they've made some allowance for that over the years and learning that.
That's right.
And so us being aware of what our triggers are is super important. I think we have to start there. Right, we have to be aware and know that. And so if it is a trigger, then what do we do next? What do we need to be doing?
Well, we have to recognize what is that trigger about. So if you look at real life examples for a minute, the one I just had, but kind of reframe it for a minute. A mom is frustrated because her teenager's not listening. You never listen to me. You're not listening. What's going on there? Mom's frustrated. The feeling is real. Frustration is real. But
valid,
right?
real.
But what's the trigger? Well, the trigger is that mom knows in her mind, if she can't influence that teen, it will impact that teen's decision making in the future. It will impact who that teen needs to learn and needs to grow, and these things they don't even know what they don't know. So the real trigger is the fear that the child will grow up and make bad decisions. Will grow up and not learn the things that she needs to learn, or he needs to learn.
And maybe, there is that continuum. Maybe it's, she needs to be heard. She needs to feel understood. She needs to be respected. And then it goes a step further.
That's right. Now you're
she
going.
wants her child to grow up and make sure that they can listen and learn. And so, it begins to get to grow, right? And so then the frustration grows. And as the frustration is growing, then the reaction a lot of times is growing as well. Whether it's I'm just, I'm kind of stockpiling internally, or the emotion and frustration is growing and they're seeing it and others are experiencing that, but it's growing. It's getting bigger.
It does. And it will damage the relationship, right? I mean, it will damage the relationship.
It's going to control how you respond. It's going to control how that person responds if we're not learning to slow down and make some different choices, shift. If we're not learning to shift. And so, being able to make those shifts is super important.
It is. And I'll give you one more example that I'm thinking about where I totally blew it with our team here at Eagle. And because we have work relationships, personal relationships, sometimes we have to understand what frustrates others and make sure that we don't mash their button. We don't push their button. We don't push, we don't cause their trigger. And I think for me, it goes back to being action oriented. I remember when we were rolling and I will make decisions very quickly and be okay with messing up and be okay with getting up and moving again and make decisions very quickly. Conversations that we've had is that, hey, Larry, that's fine, but what about the other members of your leadership team? What about our team? They don't make decisions like you and I. For 30 years, we talked about being, doing this thing together. We understand how to rock and roll You have learned that. I've learned that. But sometimes when I make these decisions, I have to slow down because it was frustrating our team. It was frustrating them because they felt unheard. And you told me that. Like, hey, they're not, they need to feel, and you're much better at it than I am. You meet with them and process them, and it's really awesome.
People need to be heard and understood.
They need to be heard and understood.
Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't want to, it's that I was moving too fast to let them experience that. So that was a real, where I was causing a frustration for them. And I realized that. And what can I do about that? Well, I could slow down, bring them in, help them to feel heard, and help them to feel part of the process.
Yes. So these real life examples, again, we go back to what can we do about it? You know, how can we learn? How can we grow? We're never going to get it right. You know, we can say, do these 3 things, and in life is just difficult.
Wouldn't it be nice if life were 3 things?
But what we can do is be committed to learning and growing, you know, and that is really where the beauty is and the secret is of really, you know, making some adjustments and changes and strengthening our relationships, because truly it's about making shifts.
It is.
So that we can have stronger relationships. So let's talk about that. So if we want to make some shifts, we recognize what our triggers are. We can shift from blaming to really finding and understanding our triggers. It can be easy to blame, whether we do that in our mind or we do that with our mouth and our words. We can put the blame on other people, and when we do that, we're not able to really take ownership of our part of the situation.
You make me so mad. I think that is one of the greatest components that cause us to have dysfunction in our relationships, because it starts with our own life. We are allowing our feelings to drive our behavior. You make me, no. I'm choosing to allow that. I'm choosing not to communicate to you. I'm choosing not to share an expectation with you that you need to know in our relationship. So instead of, you know, you make me so mad, it's, wait a minute, what is it I'm not saying that I need to say? What expectations have I not set yet? And once we're sure that we've set those, then we can talk about consequences of them intentionally, but 9 times out of 10, it's not intentional.
You know, and when our emotions, if emotions are on a continuum, when we get to a certain level, a certain number in that emotion, a certain level, we're not able to have conversation like that. We're not able to have awareness like that. We're not able to slow ourselves down. We're not able to stay in that logical mind where we can process and be aware and still shift our behavior. And so we're wanting us to think about these things when we're on this, let's say 0 to 5 on the continuum, so that you can shift, you can adjust how you're responding. You can be aware if you're blaming. You can be aware if you have a tendency to blame.
Yeah.
You know, there's a passive level of blaming. Yep. And there is an aggressive level of blaming. The passive level of blaming, I might allow myself to be a victim to my circumstance, to whatever's going on. There's an aggressive level where I'm going to blame you and it's going to be all your fault. The truth, the healthy place is somewhere in the middle where we can own what's being triggered and we can communicate and have conversation.
I think the second thing is to get there. How do you do that, though? How do you move from blaming to having, because you said it, you can't hear, I'm mad. I think this second shift is really important. So once we decide we're going to shift from blaming to looking at those triggers, to at least acknowledging what are the true triggers, I think, being curious about that, find it. But I think, how do you do that? That sounds great, guys, but in the moment, how do you do it? This is going to sound so simple, Melissa. This is going to sound so simple, but it's the most powerful thing I've ever come across in terms of dealing with our emotions, dealing with our frustrations in the moment. And that's it. Shift from reacting. Stop reacting. Just stop. You don't have to allow your feelings to drive your behavior. You don't have to do that. Stop and pause. Just take a step back.
And that pause is so powerful. The pause allows you just to kind of breathe and put the brakes on. And it can be hard to put the brakes on at times. But the pause allows you to just stop. And when you can stop, and you may have to step completely out of the situation, you're going to pull yourself out of reaction and give yourself a moment to get back in this logical thought processing. And there's so much information out there right now about rewiring your behavior, rewiring your brain and your response, forming new habits. That's all it is, forming new habits. And we all know that habits are hard to form. But we can do that. Something that has to be there that I think is super important. If you don't have this, I don't think it's going to work. And that is desire.
Yeah.
You have to have this desire to want something different.
That is so good.
To not react.
Because it's hard. You have to have that desire. It's easier. By the way, think about a Coca-Cola back in the day. The Coca-Cola bottle. They think about a bottle of that, or Pepsi or whatever, and a carbonated drink. And you shake it up because your emotions are very, very, right on the surface. You're feeling it. You feel agitated. You feel frustrated. And boy, you want to let that out so bad. If you take that top off, it's going to explode because you're all shook up. You're all shook up on the inside. But if you just take a step back and let that fizz settle, let that emotion settle, and then you begin to open it up a little bit with conversation, then there's no overflow. Then not only can you hear, but you can be heard. So many times when you're emoting, you can't be heard. They can't hear you.
And respect yourself. Respect yourself enough to step back. Show, this ability that you have to take control of yourself, and you need that, so that you can have that moment, so that you don't explode on everybody, because you're going to feel regret for that.
You are.
You're going to feel regret if you're.
That's the consequence of that. So that's our third shift, is shift from bottling things up and exploding to a healthy release, a healthy way of communicating. And that looks like when you step back and assess, am I ready for this conversation? No, not right now. Well, I need to do something. Okay, journal, take a walk, pray. Talk to somebody that's not in the situation that can hear you.
Yeah, and you've got to determine what you need.
Right.
For some people, journaling, they can't do that. No. That's just not them. No. That didn't work for them. What works for you?
That's right.
What is it that helps you? You've got to have that tool in your toolbox so that you can do what will give you a breath. Give you a moment to take a breath. What is it with your personality? What is it that you find can really work for you and reset you? What is it? And nobody can determine that for you. And nobody needs to be determining that for you. You need to know what that is. You need to figure out what that is. You need to be able to do that for yourself. So you can have that self-control.
Words of wisdom. So here's our bottom line. You don't have to allow frustration to control you any longer. You don't have to do it. You have some tools. You can shift. You can choose. You can make those shifts. And man, when you recognize those triggers and you clearly want to, you step back and you want to let that bottle calm down. You find ways to deal with it in a healthy way. You're going to find that you have better relationships all around you when you choose to take control of your frustration. And I know that you would be so frustrated with me if I didn't share and do what everybody wants. It's the most anticipated thing on our podcast, Melissa.
I'm actually feeling a little frustration that it's not happening.
That it's not happening. That's exactly right. And I'm just so excited about this one. This one made me laugh out loud. I just got to tell you. Okay, don't look. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
All right. Robin, are you ready? Okay, she's ready. She's shaking her head. Okay, here we go. What do you call a janitor who is always smoking weed? What do you call a janitor who is always smoking weed?
Well, I could say so many things.
You ready?
I give up.
What do you call a janitor who is always smoking weed? High maintenance. Oh, I love that one. That's got to be one of my favorites.
Doesn't he say that every time? It's always your favorite. He loves it. He loves the bad dad joke
I
book.
love 'em. Thank you guys
That's good.
I thought it was. Thank you guys for joining us and laughing with us and hopefully learning with us. We love to learn and we learn together, and we certainly can learn from you. And thank you for the questions, and thank you for taking the time to listen and like us and follow us. All that means so much to us, and we're so appreciative. And we look forward to the next time when we get together with relationships where, just those little shifts can really make a difference.
Little shifts that make a big difference. RelationShifts. Little shifts that make a big difference.